What is going on? I am Kyle. It is good to see everybody. I am pretty excited. Today we have a special guest. We have. Oh, nope, I got the wrong. Nope, I got the good one up. Today we got Mr. Don Hooson with us. He placed 9th in LVO with Death Guard, and I have been conversing with this guy for, like I said earlier when we were just talking a second ago, unbeknownst to him, we have been conversing for a while about Death Guard tactics and all that type of stuff, so it's been fun. But as always, I've got old Zombie John with us, and I've got Cody. So we're going to be just berating this guy with questions on Death Guard and how he plays it. And go ahead and say hi, everybody.
Yo, yo, yo.
Yo, yo, yo.
Hello.
So Don, starting off, just to start things off here, how long have you been playing?
So I started somewhere in 3rd edition. Didn't get around to Chaos until 8th edition. So it's been a bit. I did take a little break throughout 5th edition, just college and whatnot, taking over all that time, and then got back in 6th, and then I've been doing pretty well for myself. I kind of started doing more competitive stuff in the late 7th, early 8th, and then disappeared for early 9th when a little kid showed up in my life.
Classic.
It happens. It happens, dude. You had a little nerdling come in. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, little nerdling. Some mischief maker, if you will. And now I'm starting to think about coming back to doing stuff, so that's good.
Yeah. What'd you start playing in 3rd with?
So I started playing with Tau shortly after they came out.
Let's go.
Because back when I was teenager, Gundam Wing was a thing. I thought it was awesome. And I was like, oh, here's this thing that kind of ports almost directly over, so let's make that a thing. And worked my way from Tau to like Orcs, went into Space Marines for a little bit, and then found myself in the Chaos Space Marines, and supplemented to Death Guard. And eventually the Death Guard book came out in 8th, and I was like, yes, let's go.
Yes.
I've always loved like Death Guard lore and whatnot, so it's been great.
Yeah, that was actually my next question for you. Are you a purely comp player? Or do you like the lore? Do you lore, or do you a both?
I definitely do enjoy the lore, especially like the Pale King Mortarian book and things like that are great. But they've done some really good stuff with the Death Guard books, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I asked that because one of the things that we do, like on our show here before we really dive deep into the comp talk, we have John as our designated lore guy, so he likes to try to give us a little 2-second spiel on something cool that we didn't know.
I like to read the books, but this one's kind of straightforward for Nurgle, but still fun nonetheless. Am I spieling now?
Yeah. Go ahead, man.
Oh, let me spiel. So, imagine you were living in the Warhammer 40K universe, and life is not that good. With Nurgle, plague started from pretty much every like virus plague started from Nurgle. At one point, he was even the most powerful of the Chaos Gods. He was the third Chaos God to come into existence, but he kind of gained his power from humanity's acute fear of death, from disease and suffering. Because I had the flu recently, not to brag, and it was miserable. So I was kind of wishing for a little bit of release there.
Dude, we had the vid,
But
bro. That was the vid. That
yeah.
was for sure.
Yeah, definitely had a little bit of COVID, but so imagine that you live on one of these like a hive city, disease is rampant, and you're just like praying for like please I don't want to feel like this anymore, and then you hear a voice in the back of your head, and that voice says, "Hey, I could take all that away." Well, don't listen to voices in your head because they're rarely a good thing, and that's the first step to falling towards Nurgle. And with Nurgle, you essentially if you accept the plague, you become plague ridden, but you're not really feeling it when you're a devout follower. But when you start to question, you can have these moments of clarity where you realize you're just this preacher with pus coming from all orifices. You have a mouth on your stomach, a little mouth stomach. It's just not a good time, and yeah, it's how you live. I think of all the Chaos Gods, we discussed this before. The one I would probably least be interested in serving would be like Zinch, but I think Nurgle might be a close second. I think Khorne and Slanesh are cool. I think I could get over that.
Yeah,
but,
Slanesh and I wouldn't want to deal with Khorne. Slanesh and Nurgle would be what I would fall prey to. So we've already established all that.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh. You just love the grandfather, but it has really cool lore. In the books I've read so far, I haven't really had anything that super touched on Nurgle. Hopefully, something I read in the future will. But the lore is there, like it's super interesting. I'm not going to go into Mortarion because I like focusing on the plebeians, that are just having the cultists, if you will, because that's probably where I'd fall in at. As a cultist, I would never be a main character in something like that. So their stories interest me purely from self-interest.
Gotcha. Yeah, Don. I mean, I don't know. Do you have a favorite book? Have you did you said you read the books, right? Like the Pale King.
Yeah, so the Pale King was the Primarch book, and that one was really good at showing Mortarion before his fall. After his fall, it's not really a Mortarion specific book, but the Lords of Silence is like acclaimed as like the Death Guard book to read, and it has like a couple shootout books like Endurance and whatnot that makes it like I wish that Siege Master of Orcs was a character in the game. He is my favorite Death Guard character that is not Mortarion by quite a bit. Just an absolute, for lack of a better term, Chad of a Death Guard captain or Chaos Lord. But yeah, it's an awesome book. If you haven't read Lords of Silence, I strongly suggest it. Even if you're not a super huge fan of Death Guard.
I'll definitely check it out. So how is it? So when perusing the Black Library, some of the books I've read have been a little bit drier than others. How would you rate it among other things you've read as far as like is it super engaging?
It definitely starts off a little slow for the Lords of Silence, and if you don't realize that it does time jumps, like originally I didn't realize it did time jumps, but once that you realize it, it makes a lot more sense, and it picks up massively about midway through, and
Okay.
just keeps you just in there for the rest of the book. With the twist at the end is magnific. It's amazing.
Yeah, so some of the books in the Black Library are very dry throughout. So hearing halfway point, that's easy. I can grind to that point. But some of them just have like that throughout where they're not. It's like it's more like a lore dump than a book to me.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
I'll definitely check it out though.
Christian 20, what's going on, man? Good to see you. We're just chit chatting with old Don here, talking about some of his thoughts on Death Guard. But real quick before we jump into the competitive and how you build your listens and all that juicy stuff, do you play any other armies, or are you solo Death Guard right now?
So I've pretty much played every army except for Genes of the Cold. I collected them initially when they came out, but never really got them on the table. Definitely when 10th edition came out, I was like, all right, I'm tired with this army jumping stuff. I think I'm just gonna stick with Death Guard, have fun with it, see what I can do with it. Especially because I have this weird thing where when I hear people say X is bad, I'm like, well, let me see if X is bad, because I don't know if you remember, start of 10th edition, people were really down on Death Guard.
Yep.
And it wasn't until the Play Company complete another rules rewrite that Death Guard started really performing well on the grander stage of things. Not broken, but just definitely getting closer to that 50% win rate as opposed to early on when they were in the mid 30s.
God, yeah. And we were talking about that a minute ago, about early 10th and how, I know you were one of the more calming voices in the community of people freaking out because of how bad it was going, and it was like, dude, everybody has their day. Don't worry, it'll come back. Like everybody goes through that phase in 40K where their codex just kind of sucks, and then they'll bring it back. I mean, in GW, as of the last like 2 years, well, sorry, not 2 years, since I think the end of 9th and 10th edition have been really trying to do a good job of wrangling in and like balancing the game. So everybody has their day basically, but excuse me. So when building your lists, because I do want to talk about your LVO list, and like if you don't mind, I'm gonna pull it up in a minute, and we're gonna go through and just have you kind of explain like what your thoughts were when you were building it, like how you were planning on using it and how you ended up using it. But when you're building your list, what considerations do you take? Like I know for me, like I have certain rules that I kind of try to keep myself to, because I do tend to get excited about certain units, and I'm like, man, I really want that, but it really doesn't make sense to do it because this is here. You know what I mean? So like what kind of what considerations and what rules do you keep yourself to, I guess, if that makes sense?
So I normally try to make lists that don't have a lot of, lack of a better term, fat on them. Like I don't like units that are filler units. I like everyone being able to kind of do a purpose, like do a job, whether it's being fast enough to like go contagion on units, or have enough OC to like block out something, or just having the ability to destroy enemy units from far away, things like that, which is one of the reasons I tend to favor more so like the Demon Engine style of lists over the let's have my Cultist unit, which Cultist units are great, don't get me wrong, for the scout move, or like Nurglings, which funny thing is Nurglings are the one unit that I hate running, because for as long as I can remember, all Chaos armies have been, the only way you can be competitive is if you bring Nurglings. So in my head, every time I go to build a list, I'm always like, well, we're just gonna not use them.
Yep.
I'll show them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so
That mindset lines with Kyle perfectly.
yeah, I definitely, yeah, for sure. But okay, yeah, no, I mean that makes, obviously, yeah, you want everything to have a. I mean, we were talking to Robin Roberts the other day. He's a really good Gene Stealer cult player, and one of the tips he gave, which seems like one of those obvious things that you when you say it out loud, but like what you do is you take your list and you're like, all right, what is it going to do in the first turn, the second turn, the third turn, the fourth turn? Obviously, what your opponent does is going to change what you do, but like we call it in the military, we call it Met TC. It's basically just like you're kind of reacting to what your enemy's doing. So
yeah,
your list at LVO, I'm looking at it here. I'm going to pull it up so everybody can see it. Which, damn it. Hold on.
That sounds good.
I screwed it up. Give me 1 second.
Well, in the meantime, while you do that, when you're talking about units that don't quite fall in line with the meta, my whole play style is cool is the rule. So if the unit looks cool and it's not good, at least I can have it displayed in my house and be like, yeah, that's neat.
Oh, definitely. Like
Yeah, just have them around.
the amount of times I looked at like Death Shrouds or Mortarion or a great number of the Death Fairy units because I love the aesthetic even with the more cartoony version of where they're at now as opposed to pure body horror like the Poxwalkers.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I like them. I want to get kind of everything and mess around with it and to see what I can do with them. So like, there's also times where I'll build lists with like, I'm going to find a way to make this unit work. Whether it's like the Lord of Virulence being amazing at affecting blast weapons, or like before when I used to run 2-man packs of Blight Haulers in editions past, where they were just really, really tar pity units that you could use to like block people out and tie units down.
Yeah.
But yeah, being able to figure out how to make every unit work, which I also feel like the Death Guard Codex in general has very few to no duds in that like index. Even as we were talking about earlier before this started, the Malignifier, it could be useful. I don't think I could run 3, but like there is a build for it, I'm sure. I'm just not super interested in trying to find it because I mean I've already seen the like G-Circle drill disappeared from their index, things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not really interested in grabbing a fortification, especially because a lot of tournament circuits, like I think I forgot if it's the UKTC or the WTC, actually doesn't even let you bring fortifications. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Not that I play too often.
That's kind of a feels bad with stuff like that, especially. I feel like they've from limited experience. I feel like they've been. It feels like they've been kind of like shooing out flyers, like making them less and less viable with just slight rule changes, and it worries me because it's like, dude, those are so cool. Why would you get rid of those? Like, why not just fix it? Why keep like hindering them to the point where people don't want to bring them as much? I know certain armies have use for them, but it's still one of those things.
Yeah, the only army I've seen that reliably brings a flyer that is useful is Dark Eldar with that Wood-Driven Bomber.
Yep.
Because it helps keep them safe from the indirect fire from like mortars and things like that. Because Eldar don't like, well, elves in general don't like getting hit with indirect.
Yeah.
And the random Harridans.
Yeah.
The Harridans?
Random Harridan.
Yeah, the Tyranid. Super bird.
Also,
There's actually a viable build for it in like Vanguard Onslaught, where it, like turn 1 comes in from reserves turn 1 and just lights you up.
Wait, before we go on, just a quick interjection so everyone knows, because we talked about it earlier. Don also likes Tau because of their aesthetics. How do you feel about that, Kyle?
I am
Tower
going to
cool, dude.
I am going to give a pass out of respect for our guest.
That's right, because Tower cool, and you have to admit it now. Even with their little chicken feet, Tower cool.
Nah, dog, they're not cool. But anyway,
I love them. I love their models. That was my first army that I got in Ninth. Towards the tail end of Ninth, I bought it because it was solely because I really liked the battle suits. Like they just look so like the Ghost Kill especially is such a cool model. Definitely. And I was like, dude, this is me.
Yeah, and like I remember way back when I used to run a Crew Mercenary Army back in the good old Chapter Approved pamphlet, and it was so much fun. I was so happy when I saw that they brought the Crew Mercenary or Crew Hunting Pack style army back. I'm like, oh yeah, I can run like a crude army again. That sounds like fun. But yeah, it definitely has some definitely ups and downs as far as what's awesome about it.
Yeah,
but a lot of people just don't really enjoy the pure shooting style of it and its ability to ignore so many rules in the game. So I can definitely see how some people really don't like Tau as far as that goes. But I mean, like they're an interesting faction. I think the first 40k game I even played for anything 40k related was Fire Warrior, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Oh, the old game for
PlayStation.
Oh man, what was it? Yeah, was it PS2?
I want to say I think it was PlayStation 1. It might be PS2. Probably
Yeah,
PS2.
it was one of those. That game is I've used an emulator to play it because sadly at the time I didn't even know about Warhammer, but I was alive in that era, so I was definitely PS1, PS2ing. But it was mostly like Army Men, Sarge's Heroes, like super
Definitely.
basic stuff. But no, that game is awesome, and it's just something about the aesthetic gets me. And I agree with you in the terms of like I could see why people don't like it from a gameplay standpoint, but they are like that aesthetic is cool, and the Kroot have
Definitely.
really cool lore.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
John, we're
Not
Stop-
turning this into a Tau
stop
stream,
turning
sorry.
things into a Tau stream, dude.
My bad.
No, but
A little Tau here.
I've got everything fixed. It's funny as I had this pulled up earlier and then I had to switch some stuff around and I messed it up. But all right, so I'm looking at your list right now, Don. You've got a Lord of Virulence, 2 Malignant Playcasters, Mortarion. You've got Typhus. You got a Rhino, 2 Defilers, 3 Destructors, 1 3-man Terminator squad, 2 Bloat drones with the heavy blight launchers on it, and you've got the 3 Mephitic Blight haulers. So, could you run us down like what your thought process was and how you were like why you included what and how you dealt with what you dealt with, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the list concept came around. I was originally running a double Gatling cannon despoiler, Chaos Knight. And then I was talking with Aiden, and he was like, well, what about these mono Death Guard builds? I'm like, well, let's see about that. So I yanked the despoiler out, and I had a bunch of points left over to mess around with. And I was like, well, I want to go back to trying out Defilers again. So I brought the Defilers in, and they are just super good shooting platforms. And I was like, well, the blast weapons are great. Is there any way I can make them better? So then you go to add things like the Lord of Virulence that gives them +1 to hit and ignores cover with the blast weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of trickled on from there. Like the Predators have blast weapons, the Blight Haulers technically have blast weapons, Mortarion has the blast weapon. So you're able to kind of compound off that. And I wanted to keep him alive. That's why I have the 3-man Death Shroud for him to attach to. Because it's a lot of wounds that kind of go with it, like an extra 9 wounds. They're -1 to wound if your strength is higher than 6 when you're attacking him. And most of the time, that guy would live through like every game because you don't want to attack him. He's not hurting you. It's everyone else that's hurting you.
Right.
So like you're just getting so much value out of that 190 points between him and the Death Shroud. And then you also have like Mortarion to ignore things like I was worried about like modifiers with all the Necrons that were going to come out with like Star Shatter. So Mortarion's great for that. Or like Armor Contempt. I don't even want to give people the option, even though they get the 1 activation of Armor Contempt. And I was also worried about like Custodies with their Solar Spearheads, with the minus damage Telemons, things like that. So Mortarion made perfect sense too. You had Typhus just being Typhus because he's 80 points.
Typhus just
should
being
be 130
Typhus.
points. Like he's just a great little guy that can come down, do an action, and at the same time just randomly spawn mortal wounds on people. So he's pretty good for 80 points. Like I have no idea why he's still that cheap.
He actually got
And then-
cheaper a couple of data sheets ago. I think it was like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
It was like
Okay.
maybe like middle of last year or the 3rd data slate from last year. Or the field manual. And he dropped like 20 points because he was like 100, and then
Definitely.
he dropped down to 80, and I don't understand why either.
Dude,
Put the curse of death. Stop putting that out there.
Same
On the
thing with
odd
Morty.
chance.
Morty drops 25 points from 325 to 300. I just don't understand why he dropped points
Stop.
either.
Stop bringing
And got
attention
deep
to it.
strike, and it's for free. Gain deep
Yeah.
strike.
Yeah, we want this to stay the same. Stop. I just started playing Death Guard. Chill out.
the Terminator, everything pretty much. I don't think anything got increased. We only decreased. The Death Shrouds took a decrease too. I think they were at.
They were 120 and they dropped down at 110.
Yeah.
We love to see it. Stop bringing attention to it. You're doing what I do. You're jinxing. You're jinxing the army. Stop.
I think they just have a lot of Mortys and Death Shroud Terminators on their wall in the warehouses. And
Yeah, they know what they're doing. This is calculated.
Yeah, if you think if you were to take my list and look at it from back when 10th dropped, it's probably like 2,500 points.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So
Yeah,
it's
I mean
dropped quite a
that's
bit.
probably true.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's kind of funny that you said you're running the despoiler because that's literally how I started 10th. Actually, I started 10th playing 5 greater demons and a despoiler, and then I rolled it into eventually when everyone was playing like this crazy anti-tank meta that was started 10th out. Everyone had a Wraith Knight or 3 or all kinds of stuff in the beginning. Everything was anti-tank. I ended up swapping to Death Guard because I think Death Guard is just so durable. Um, I ended up rolling away from the spoiler as well, but I actually thought that a triple brigand, even now in Death Guard, is really strong. That's what I went to Worlds with was triple Predator Destructor, triple brigand, and then other stuff.
You're saying
Nice.
despoiler? Do you mean defiler? Is that
No,
The spoiler.
the spoiler?
Yeah, the Chaos Knight that has the
Oh,
options for like 2 guns.
Okay. I know very little about Chaos Knight, so sorry. My bad.
Yeah, it's the double Gatling Cannon Knight because 36 shots of strength 6 AP 2 damage with the Death Guard debuffs on top of things make them just shred through
Mhm.
whatever they come on the table and look at. So that was real nice. But then when I took the challenge upon myself to just nuke all the allies out of my list and make it pure Death Guard, it opened up so many more units I could just add in, which is like you get the Blight Haulers and the Fed Blow Jones,
Mhm.
super cheap. So you just get a whole bunch of other fast quasi durable units, like really durable for 90 points, and it allowed me to just score so many more things or use them as bait pieces. And the thing is with like a Blight Hauler or the drone stat line, it's really hard for someone to just barely poke something out to try to take it out because it's durable enough that it takes effort to kill something like that.
Yeah, and their 10-inch move, it's a little bit faster than what we're obviously accustomed to with Death Guard. Or I see you brought the heavy blight launchers. I personally, when I bring them, I usually bring the plague spitters because I like to try to use them as like, hey, if you move, you're gonna die kind of thing.
Yeah.
So with your, I'm assuming that you play tested the shit out of this, so you probably already had everything all mathed out and ready to rock. But was the heavy blight line? I mean, were they working, or were they kind of just, how did they perform for you?
Definitely. So one of the reasons I like the heavy blight launcher over the other the other 2, is I feel like the heavy blight launcher I can use every turn reliably.
Mm-hmm.
That is live because it's 36 inches. It's strength 8 AP 2 damage, lethal. It's got 6 shots. Like every time you activate, it's probably going to take wounds off of something, or if it's shooting at something lighter like infantry, it's probably going to take out a couple infantry. So that's fairly reliable for what I needed to do. You can also fall back and shoot. So like if someone tries to tie it up, you can still go off and do your thing, and then you can charge after that if you need to like go take out like a lone op character or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're pretty good. I don't really like the plague spitters and the fact that they're not reliable enough for me. Like every time I'm like, all right, you're gonna move this like 3 like dire avengers right in front of me. I'm gonna Overwatch 2 shots,
Get 2.
1 wound,
Yep.
save. And then I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna casually shoot this one guardsman out in the open, and it goes 12 shots. It's dead. I'm like, it's just not reliable enough for me.
Right.
And like the flesh mower is also an interesting one, but I feel like the flesh mower you get like 2 activations with it maybe before it's dead, because it normally can't do it on turn 1. It normally has an issue getting to combat because people look at it and they're like, I'm going to shoot it to death. And then if it does make it to combat, it activates once, maybe twice, and then it dies. So I really like the heavy blight launcher and the fact that I feel like I can kind of also keep it towards the sides for like containment or sabotage, things like that. Whereas I don't have to like do the flesh mower and have them be on top of the objectives where all the opponents are at, or even like the plague spitters where I want them to be where people walk with their stuff often to try to get the Overwatch through. On top of that, the Predator Destructors with the heavy bolters are super good with Overwatch, so I didn't really need another type of Overwatch threat.
Yeah, and it probably widens your footprint too. So for deep striking purposes, I'm assuming they're probably, you got two of them that are just sitting there. I mean, at least you can, if you don't want something deep striking into your back line or something, they can still fire from your back line. So I'm assuming
Definitely.
yeah. Yeah, it's actually, I mean, a pretty straightforward list, which is part of the beauty of it, I think, personally. Like you were saying, I am totally of the same mindset as you, where if other people are playing it, if it's popular, I'm like, I kind of geared, like I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Because then, I mean, not only is it for me, not only is it like a testament to my being able to build a list, but also people are prepared for it, so
Yes.
they're going to know how to deal with it.
Yeah, and I don't think any of my opponents, even the guy I lost to, the guy that won the event, had ever even seen Defiler on the table before. They're like, what is that? What does it do? And you like go through and tell them what the base stats were, and they're not. They're like, oh well, that's not bad. It's all like AP1 and whatnot. I'm like, kind of, but let me tell you about all the stuff that happens when I debuff you and buff it like crazy. And they're like, oh, and they like still don't understand it until you get hit with it, and they're like, oh no.
This
Yeah.
feels bad.
Yeah, I'm assuming you walked Mortarion with them. Kind of.
Sometimes, like day one, Mortarion started on the table each turn. Day two, he deep struck every turn, like every game. It just depended on what my opponent had and what I felt like Mortarion would be better useful for. Like Mortarion's great for helping them out with modifiers. The real one's to wound is great, but sometimes I just want a Mortarion to show up in someone's backfield and cause a problem.
Yeah, just be there. Yeah.
And the ability to just, especially if they don't have an invulnerable save, Mortarion's really good at killing tanks.
Very true. Yep.
You know what? I also think that like a lot of people, even if they have seen a Defiler, they probably don't see Death Guard Defilers, which are probably just better. Honestly, you get the 2 free lethal guns. Like it's kind of like sneaky good. Just for everyone else to know, all plague weapons come with lethal. So the Death Guard Defilers get a plague combi bolter and a plague heavy bolter, which are a bunch of free lethals.
Definitely. And like those lethal weapons, like even the lethal combi bolter, will just take wounds off of tanks. You just go like,
randomly.
Hit, -1 to save, take a damage.
Speaking of -1 to save, are you usually taking that as your aura?
Yes. By and large, I take the -1 to save. The only time I wouldn't is if it would not truly matter, like Gene Stealer cults or like demons. Like even against guard, I take -1 to save because I want to punch through their tanks really hard because all 2 have saves. And then their little stuff just melts when you look at it, so that helps. But yeah, like demons don't have armor saves that you care about, so just take the -1 weapon skill. Gene Stealer cult hit really hard if you let them, and they don't really have good saves either. So -1 weapon skill is great. But yeah, against like anything that's like power armor ish, most of the time I'll take -1 to save. And I don't really think I like Canoptic Court was the only time I ever used the -1 OC and -1 leadership because all the Wraith units were OC2. And I just want to make sure they couldn't just sit on objectives and hold it from me.
Really?
But yeah, because when you make them all OC1, they're not as able to hold things.
There's a couple other local Death Guard players down by me. I live down in South Florida, and I actually had this debate quite a few times about what is the best aura and why. And obviously, like the OC is like very niche, but most people say what you say, that they always just go into the save. It's like kind of default. It just makes your army better. It's very easily quantifiable. But I feel like personally, at least in the style of lists that I play, which admittedly are often pretty skew. Like when I played my Death Guard list, my lowest toughness was 10, and that was on my Brigands and Predators. So -1 weapon skill and ballistic skill, and then just getting my entire army forward, so they were always in that aura. It adds a level of durability that is like melee armies can't play into you, period. Especially if you throw Typhus in like the unit of Death Shrouds. Well, actually, that's actually a great question. Do you ever flex them? Depending on your opponent?
No,
What?
because Typhus didn't matter. Like ultimately, he was a point scorer and occasionally a more wound guy. the guy that did matter was Lord of Virulence. Like he had to be alive to decrease the damage output of army drastically. And I mean, like Typhus is good, and like if he does stuff, It's great, but his ability to influence the game was more so just scoring points than anything else.
Yeah.
And by points, I'm assuming you mean secondaries or wherever. Well, I guess wherever he's on the board, but
yeah, like most of the time it's secondary. Sometimes it's primaries because like every once in a while he'd survive long enough to be able to go over and steal like a home objective and hide behind a wall. But yeah, I never used him as a hammer piece.
Yeah, I never use him as a hammer, to be fair, either. I always use him as a shield. Seriously, -1 weapon skill and -1 to hit means like custodians run into him and hit him on 4s.
Yeah.
Him and 3 Blight Lords, or sorry, him and 3 Destros, I mean, win like unanimously against like Custodian Guard. And they're like 10 or 15 points cheaper per model.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he does. Go ahead.
But I like using Custodian save on 4s all the time. That's one of those things. I normally look at it. They're both, ironically, they're both durability things in my mind. Because if they don't have as many models to hit me with, then I don't care what they're hitting me on.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah, it's. Yeah, I know a lot of people have that debate with like World Eaters, an example where they're like, "Oh, take the -1 weapon skill." I'm like, I'd much rather just have them all be dead.
Yeah, but also World Eaters like 8-bound, you already have, unless they're getting cover and you're not ignoring cover for some reason, or you're not playing around that. Often a lot of your stuff, like your Predators, for example, put them on their invuls anyway. And you have 3 of them. Even their heavy bolters put them on their invuls.
Definitely. But I also have a lot of AP Dash and AP1.
That's true. Yeah. Especially since you're trying to bring a lot of Havoc launchers and stuff. A lot of blast weapons.
Definitely.
How are you using the Plaguecasters?
So the Plaguecasters in that list, we're doing the little Play Bless routine, which is where they both get inside a Rhino and turn into a tiny Redeemer that occasionally just drives around and blows a unit up. In certain matchups, you can even get them out and use their actual abilities that are on the data sheet, like -1 to wound in the fight phase, or if they successfully wound an infantry unit, like it doesn't have to be an unsaved wound, just they have to roll a successful wound roll against an infantry unit. -2 to advance, charge, move, all that stuff. And that one stacks too, so like you can make it so like a Terminator unit is moving 1 inch. Like it's kind of funny. And then there was a fun game I played where a guy had like the Fights First Terminator break of Blood Angels that had +1 wound. You get 2 of those guys out, and I put my 2 -1 wounds on it because they do stack. As funny as that sounds. And I also made them movement 1, and I just threw more Terran in there. I'm like, you're going to be on 6s instead of 4s. Have fun.
Wait, what stacks?
The -1 to wound from the Plaguecaster. They can pick a unit within 18 of the shooting phase. And on a 2-up, it's -1 to wound. And because it's not an aura, it stacks. And it's, because not applying a condition, it just says they are -1 to wound.
Oh, you stacked because you washed effectively it stacked because you washed their +1 to wound.
Correct.
And you were net -1. Okay, I was just confirming that's what you're referencing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, it's a whole bunch of ways that you get stuff to stack up like that. But yeah, the Plaguecasters are, and then also they're just cheap little units that if I need to like pop out and do an action or something like that, I can just have a Plaguecaster just go run over there and plunk down and push a button.
Well, yeah, I was actually just toying around with a goofy list myself that was that included 3 Plaguecasters in it. I went more the Plague Marine route. Mine's probably honestly, it doesn't look anything like this. I've got basically 2 giant bricks of Death Shrouds with Lords of Contagions. And I love the rerolls that hit with the lethals. They're so good at killing tanks.
Oh, definitely.
I don't own any Defilers, so that's part of the reason why I don't run them is because I don't own any. And if I were to buy 2 Defile, I actually just bought the Void Raven Bomber I need for my list that I want to run. And if I buy anything else right now, my wife is likely to just burn my house.
You're not going to have a good time.
It happens.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
like I said, the Death Guard Index is really well internally balanced. So
mhm.
like you don't have to run the meta list. Just find whatever you're comfortable with and just get used to how that plays and how it scores.
Yeah, if you were talking to like somebody getting into Death Guard, like if you had some tips for them on like maybe what units to buy, I guess the way you're running it is kind of like, well, whatever you're having fun with is kind of how you do it. But if you have tips for them, what would it be if you were talking to a new Death Guard player?
So what I would say is focus on getting things that can actually move quickly. Because if you just run like the semi-popularized 18 Death Shroud, it's really rough if you fail your charges, because then they can just be left out in the open and get shot to death, because people can just take their tape measure out and just win the game
Yep.
against the 18 Death Shroud list. But if you bring things that get your opponent into contagion range, bring actual guns so you can play outside of just the fight phase with the slowest army in the game, like just find whatever way you can to ensure that you're able to hold on to primary, or at least deny your opponent primary points, and then work your way up from there for what you're comfortable playing with and what you enjoy.
Yeah, and you're talking about getting things in contagion range. What are your thoughts on the trying to think of their name right now, the Hellbrutes?
Hellbrutes. So I was running them when I was using the spoiler in my old list forever ago, because they are great as far as that goes. People also normally don't try to kill them because they're really slow. They move 6 inches. But like the variant I used was a twin heavy bolter, a combi bolter, and a fist, because I want to get as many shots as possible to try to land at least one hit in the shooting phase, or with a shooting activation. And usually when you're able to do that, it's able to just basically put a laser point on something and it just dies when you have a lot of shooting in your army, like I do.
Right.
So they're very good. They do still suffer from they're not Space Marine like dreadnoughts, so they're not T10. They don't have 12 wounds. They don't have 8-inch movement. Like they have some negatives to them, but like ironically, the Death Guard Hellbrute is actually one of the better stacked rules. One actually has like 3 abilities on it. Like it attacks something, you put a contagion range. When it charges, it does mortal wounds, and then the other one is just if you have 2 fists, which I wouldn't take 2 fists, but you get twin linked.
Right.
But yeah, it definitely has some real play. And I was actually, when I was getting rid of my plague bus, the plague casters and the rhino, just because like it didn't really suit my style for that. I was actually looking into putting a Hilbert back in the list to try to get that turn 1 contagion on things, because it's so strong.
Yeah, when I went to LVO, there was some Death Guard players that I saw. I was looking at their list and I didn't see anybody running them, and I'm just like, and that was, this was 2 years ago, but I'm like, I just don't get it. I feel like they're really good, right? I mean, you're just spreading,
Yeah.
I was thinking about running 2 of them in my list, just kind of as a staple, to be honest, just for that minus, ballistic skill. So you're just not getting hailed with shots constantly, but I mean, it really doesn't matter for some things, because they're, because I'm aiming my sights towards like custodes, where I think their tanks hit on like 2s and shit like that. So it really doesn't matter.
Definitely. Yeah, and the odds are if your Hellbrute pokes out and shoots at a Palladius, that following turn that Hellbrute's just dead.
Yeah.
Because Palladius is really good at killing Hellbrutes.
Right. But yeah, they were the overwhelming consensus that I got with like the 5 people I talked to over there was that they look good on paper, but they just don't perform well.
Yeah, and it also depends on what your list build is. If you run more the traditional style of like Plague Marines and Rhinos, things like that, you don't really have much of a use to try to get contagion range on things early.
Mm-hmm.
And later on in the game, you have contagion all over the board anyways, so it doesn't really help you out too much as far as that goes. But they really do help you out early game, especially if you're using the last one save contagion and have a lot of shooting in your list. The minus 1 skill is also a good option. Like I have used that before as well. And the funny part is their ability to put contagion on things is not phase locked. It's just activation locked. So like you can even Overwatch and put it on with Overwatch as long as you hit with it.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
that's actually that's an interesting thought. I didn't really think about. Yeah, I get definitely bringing a missile launcher at that point for sure. But yeah, I've been thinking about that for a while, and I was kind of wondering what your thoughts were on that. I didn't see it in your list, obviously, so I'm like, well, I guess they might not be, you know, totally usable, but again, I'm not.
they definitely have legs, that's for sure. It just depends on what you're trying to do. And like I said, I'm not really sold on the plague bus as far as my kind of build anymore because that play style of that thing doesn't really vibe with me because it is 3 kills that are pretty easy to get because it's 2 4-wound plague marines effectively and a rhino. It's not hard for most lists to burn through that unit, especially if you don't have it like right behind a wall where you can have the plague casters get out where they're not going to get destroyed immediately after. But yeah, it's the Hellbrute definitely does have legs if you're willing to play around with it. And people do tend to ignore Hellbrutes unless they're up in people's grills. They normally get left alone.
Yeah, I was really thinking about it because I love Mortarion. I just love the model. I love, he's actually he's got a solid stat line. He's not the killer that he was, back in the day because he was kind of just if you get in contact with him, you're dead, which is not so much the same these days. But especially I know Cody was bringing up earlier, everything important that you actually want to kill is going to have some sort of invul save. So it kind of
definitely.
But running him with Hellbrutes, I feel like would definitely help the longevity of Mortarion, being able to reduce that ballistic skill so he's, not getting completely destroyed. But
yep.
Don't let him fool you. The reason why he brings Mortarion is because he's one of his most well-painted models.
Very true.
I mean, that's fair. Models are really fun to bring.
Don't let him fool you.
It always feels so bad when you have like a well-painted model and it just gets killed immediately when you bring it in. You're just like, fuck, dude, seriously? I spent a lot of time on that. Not much of a painter.
It's especially the worst when you have been moving it for 3 turns and you didn't been hot behind walls and ruins the whole game, and finally go to do some charge through a wall. It's like a 4-inch charge. You fail it, and he immediately wipes your unit. You finagled it for four battle rounds, and finally you have a 4-inch charge, and you can't even land it.
Yeah.
Yep. I have done it numerous times. If anybody watching, if you've watched me long enough, you know how bad the rolls are. It's definitely a thing. But yeah, I mean. And that's actually one of the things that bothers me a little bit about Death Guard is if they just did something, you were talking about the deep striking Terminators and how they're basically just kind of, if you deep strike in, I tend to only deep strike 1 unit personally. If I bring 3 units of Death Shrouds, 1 of them is deep striking, 2 of them. I mean, depending on the situation, I might have another one. But, for the most part, I try to have stuff on the board so they're running up the board. I mean, they have no reason to not run. You know what I mean? So it's like, they're actually deceivingly fast. When you kind of break it down, it's like, oh, they move 4 inches, cool. And then you roll, they're moving 8 inches at a time on average. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not entirely useless, but freaking LVO. Speaking of LVO, did you come across anything that gave you a run for your money? Where you were like, well, shit, I didn't see that coming, or, did anything catch you off guard? Did anything make you, realize that something about your list was maybe you were lacking something?
So nothing made me feel like I was lacking something. The only army I played against that it's just a hard counter for my army is the Packbound Zealots gunline. Packbound Zealots are Chaos Space Marines that have the ability to crit on 5s for their lethal or sustained. And the guy I played against had 2 Hellbrutes that let him both lethal and sustained. And it's one of those armies that if they roll hot, I have no chance. If they don't roll hot, I crush it. But I hate that kind of matchup where it's just like if the dice go hot, I'm screwed, and if the dice don't, like even though they go to this kind of normalish, I feel pretty solid into it. But yeah, unfortunately, I did come across that, and that took me to my first loss of LVO, which was game 6. But yeah, it was probably the only thing I was actually even kind of worried about. Originally, when I went to LVO, I was worried about Star Shatter. But I played against them round 4, and I found out Death Guard are really, really good in this Star Shatter with Play Company. So it was.
Did he
it's like,
have?
oh,
Oh, I guess it doesn't really matter for the save, but did he have the Silent King?
he did. And the Silent
Yeah.
King, ironically, this is a guy that plays in my local meta, so we know each other very well. He's like,
Mhm.
I'm going to stay and ignore his modifiers or the entire time. I'm like, that is really smart. I hate you. But not. he
But people always forget that ignore mods doesn't affect saves. So
It
you
does.
lowering his save doesn't. He can't prevent that.
No. Ignore mods does affect saves.
If you
It's,
look, it says except for modifiers to saving throws.
Yeah, saving throws are the dice rolls, not the actual save characteristic, which is what I modify. So,
But I'm
like, it'd
pretty.
be like,
I'm pretty sure it specifically says that you are modifying their saving throw. No.
no, it's save characteristic. So I modify their target, not their dice roll. The saving throw is the dice roll. The saving characteristic is the target.
So stat line, is that the
Yeah.
difference? So it's like
Yeah, so
what?
it protects the stat line. It does not protect what he rolls.
So it's essentially the same thing as -1 weapon skill versus -1 to hit, is what I'm understanding.
Yes.
The same
Yeah,
concept.
that's why those stack, is because it's not a double stack of -1 to hit. It's modifying the target, so modifying the target from 3 to 4, and then you're modifying the hit roll, which is the dice, on top of that. So you need to roll a 5 because of the -1 to hit to get back to a 4. Yeah.
I just lost my train of thought because that threw me off because I was right there with you, Cody, because I thought the same thing. But now that he's saying that, it does specifically say saving throws. I just kind of brushed past it and I was like, oh, okay, can't affect that. Moving on. But I guess when you really
basically it makes it so that Mortarian's not immune to AP. Because that's what the saving throw modifiers are. It's AP and cover are the two things, and technically also like the Gravis heavy intercessors can add 1 to the saving throw. It was damage 1. But those are like the only things I know that modify saving throws.
You mean? Oh, yeah. Wait, you're saying saving throws are characteristics.
Saving throws. Characteristics
Okay,
are what
Yeah.
Mortarion and Silent King protect. They do not affect the actual dice roll for it, which is what like AP, cover, and that stuff work on.
With I'm sorry, kind of changing gears here. Well, we're in the same
Words.
gear, but changing the speed, I guess. I don't know.
Yep.
Is there any cheeky tricks or tips that you have that you've done or that you do with Death Guard? And is there anything to like look out for with that, I guess, if you're playing against or if you're trying to play Death Guard?
So there's quite a few like tricks you can do. It's normally me trying to make my opponent do bad decisions.
Right.
Like when you play against World Eaters, I love to put one Blight Hauler out on the front and just tell them, "Oh, please don't charge my Blight Hauler. I forgot you scout." Like, I don't normally go to people like that, but it's basically what happens in my head as far as like, "Oh, please don't send your 6/8 bound that costs 310 points at this 90-point Blight Hauler and kill it." Oh,
Don't
look, your
ravage
8 bound
me.
is dead. But yeah, like the amount of times that I've seen people like deploy so that nothing is chargeable on turn 1, I'm like, no, give them something to charge, so that way they throw something at you. Because odds are, with Death Guard being as cheap as it is, they're gonna throw way more points at trying to take it out than you will, as far as retaliation goes. So that's one of the things. Like, give your opponents the ability to make mistakes. Don't take all the ability to take mistakes away from them.
Yeah, draw them in with a sacrificial lamb so you don't need to move so fast.
Definitely.
Ironically enough, I do play World Eaters, and if I can get off that turn 1 charge, I'm like foaming at the mouth. Like, oh, I gotta kill this thing. It could be nothing. It could be literally a
unit of
group
cultists. Yeah.
And I'm like, I gotta kill them. These guys need to die.
Yeah, there's no fighting. But yeah, like there's that as far as like those turn one charge melee armies. Do that. Um, you definitely want to make use of your ability to get things in contagion range because it, especially if you take -1 save, increases your damage dramatically against everything that's in contagion range. If you take -1 weapon skill, most of the time it's able to lessen the damage that you take. So definitely feel free to like take a rhino and advance it right into your opponent's line, or like cultist, do the scout move, then advance and just run up into people. Pop like boil blight, which is your heavy ignores cover stratagem, and just light up whatever you need to. But make use of your contagion. It is a very very strong ability in the Plague Company. So the more that you can utilize that on your opponent, the more likely that you are to just destroy everything in that area.
Yeah, and that totally goes against like normal thought, you know, like, oh, let me just run this model up in here. I mean, don't get me wrong, like it makes sense, but it's counterintuitive at like the start of the game when you're just like, well, let me sacrifice something. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
that makes total sense. I mean, especially if it's a rhino. I mean, if you got dudes that pop out, then they got to kill the dudes too. So no, if you're not trying to get blasted to death on first turn, I guess throwing a little rhino with like 5 dudes in it isn't really a terrible thing to sacrifice in the longevity of the game.
Blasted
definitely.
to death. I'm just gonna bring that up. Blasted to death.
What? Why?
It was just the way you said that, like blasted to death. Is that not humorous to anyone but me?
I
Okay.
like getting blasted to death.
Yeah, I feel like getting blasted to death just sounds not good.
Well, I mean, it's not as bad as snoo, right? That's
No,
basically-
I would rather get snooed to death than blasted. Blasted makes me feel like I'm the one.
Really
getting,
break down in your mind on what it would be like to get snooed to death, dude.
Sounds great compared to getting blasted to
That's a
death.
very Slanesh way to go down, to be fair.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, true, but good lord, man, I couldn't even picture that.
Lack of
Something we appreciate
imagination,
from the title.
smooth brain, antics.
And you know, I put on here one of my things, and you kind of covered it, but like, to deep strike Terminators or not to? I know that's a question that John specifically. I'm asking this actually for you because I'm sure you probably won't. But
Yeah.
when is it a good time to deep strike your Terminators? And I'm assuming we're not even talking about Blight Lords. In fact, before you answer that, what are your thoughts on Blight Lords? Because I think personally, I just don't have a use for them. I like being able to, this might be my Drukhari brain coming out, but Drukhari and Eldar, and those are my first armies that I played. They're very specific to what they do. So you don't have like a unit that has like, you know, anti-infantry, anti-tank, anti-elite, and a little bit of close combat. That's not too bad. It's like a little bit of everything and not a lot of everything, I guess, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And I will do the controversial thing of saying I think Blight Lords are actually fine, but they suffer from the fact of why would I bring Blight Lords when I can bring other things
Right.
that like fill the same role or fill a role that I need plugged. Blight Lords are the biggest thing that Blight Lords are going for them is they're really cheap for 15 wounds with a 2 of save, 4 people save, and toughness 6. So ironically, I would always deep strike because all you're trying to do is to put them in a place that's really annoying for your opponent to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go on to things like the Death Shroud Terminators, which you'll see way, way more often. And my list in particular, I have the 3 Death Shroud that are with Lord of Realance. Every game started off on the table. If you have just one squad of Death Shroud, always start them on the table, unless you're worried about being slowed down by like artillery or something like that from Highguard. And even then, if you have Mortarion, who cares?
True.
But yeah, like every game, I start off behind a wall, and then whenever my opponent would come out, Lord of Realms would just advance his middle butt outside, look it down, and point at things, and just watch as things just explode in the far distance. Because that blight bombardment rule that he has is super strong. Doesn't sound like it, but it is. The amount of times people will be like, "Are you sure it's not like 18 inches? Are you sure it's like everything in your army? Is it every one of my units? You don't have to pick one." Like,
If
it's
I
just-
see
I
you,
can
you're
see.
dead.
Which is super. That is very strong. I mean, just being able to just see something that's there. I don't know a lot in the game that has that, and I mean, there are a bunch of armies I don't know as well as I know Death Guard and some of the other armies I play, but I don't know a lot of stuff that's like, oh yeah, you can do this as long as you can see it.
Tau,
Yeah.
kind of. With like the spotter mechanic, kind of. Even that's a stretch.
Yeah, I mean that's like pick one and pick one.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
You're not giving it to everything. You're giving it to one. So I mean, it's like that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. That's like kind of like that.
And
That
yeah.
is.
yeah, it's very limited on what it applies to, being blast weapons. It's one of the other reasons I like the Defilers because they're the best blast weapon that Death Guard have access to. Effectively.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, let's see how much we can leverage this. And as long as you don't make your Defilers an obvious front of the line target, then they'll normally live fairly long and get full use out of that battle cannon. And it'll just destroy whatever it can see downrange. It is so strong.
Yeah, I used to run. So one of the older styles that I had was Mortarion with 3 Plague Burst Crawlers and a Lord of Virulence, and I stopped running it. Well, the Entropy Cannons taking the giant hit that they took in 10th edition really kind of just stopped that in its tracks for me. Because the Entropy Cannons used to be outstanding, and I mean now it's basically a blaster from the Death Guard from the Drukhari. It's like,
Yep.
but yeah, it's there is it's crazy the limited amount of units that Death Guard have, because there isn't a ton. Like a lot of these Chaos armies have that that problem, because I also play Thousand Suns, and there's just not a huge pool of units to pull from. But Death Guard seems to be like, out of the Chaos factions, I haven't counted it, but I feel like they have the most versatile way to play them out of all of the separated Chaos codexes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
World Eaters is, I feel like there's 2 builds for World Eaters, and that's about it.
Don't you call me two-dimensional?
It's
Nerd?
dude, it's either Angron or not Angron. With a bunch of,
Is that even really an option?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you bring in a bunch of exalted sorcerers with that demon prince, that list that John that you and I were talking about, that seems like a pretty solid build, which you absolutely annihilated me on.
I'm assuming you misspoke. A bunch of sorcerers.
We don't
What did I say?
do magic.
Did I say sorcerers? What did I?
Yeah, a bunch of sorcerers.
Bro,
and a
we
demon
don't
prince.
be doing magic and corn. How about you shut your mouth?
What was that? I think I was trying to say 8-bound. I said sorcerers.
Yeah, he was trying to. Yeah, you said
Yeah.
sorcerers.
Oh my God.
Exalted 8-bound. Yeah,
Holy
bring the
shit.
exalted sorcerers that corn would execute on the spot.
That's crazy that I just said that. Wow. Freudian slip coming out as I'm talking about Thousand Suns.
A Freudian sloop.
I feel like Thousand Suns were even worse. It's you are running Magnus, you are running
Yeah.
Arcane Vortex, a couple guys that have a crazy flip a 6 thing. But other than that, it's like this is the 1,000 Suns build. Like you get like 200 points to play with.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because it really is a cool army, and they were a lot of fun to play when 10th first dropped. They were pretty gross. I mean, they're just removing armor saves, which I think they changed to, I think it's -2.
Maybe 2. Yeah.
Yeah. The removing armor saves, like, dude, you just drop in a brick of Terminators, extend their range by 6 inches, and you're getting, like, at a 9-inch deep strike, pretty much everything in your unit is getting a rapid fire with, like,
Yeah.
sustained hits or lethal hits with rerolls. I'm just like, dude, this is out of control. Like, you have bolters taking down Titans. Like,
Stop, he's already dead.
yeah, he can't be dead anymore. Yeah, it was out of,
You've killed him. Stop.
like they were kind of out of control. And unfortunately, I was in Kuwait when that was going down, so I wasn't able to, and I didn't own any models at that point. Now I've got this giant freaking wall of shame here with my 1,000 Suns that I have yet to put, like, I think I put like 3 models together, and that's about it. I got sold on it by watching Wes Hammer. I don't know if you're a Wes Hammer fan. on YouTube?
I definitely have watched quite a few of his things. Like, ironically, every once in a while he'll come on with some stuff that I really enjoyed. Like, he actually talked about the lore stuff, the Pallid or not Pale King, that primary book that came out,
Mm-hmm.
and his recap of it was exceptional. As far as like, it didn't spoil much. It had a couple of cool moments in there where even just like hearing about it, you're like, oh, this is awesome. But yeah, it's he's interesting to listen to. Yeah, I definitely would not turn him off like some other content creators like Valrak. I'm like, turn him on for a moment, turn him off. Or like Hailstrom, turn him on for a moment, turn him off. Nope. Just. But yeah, Wes Hammer is I think it's just the fact that it feels like he really, really enjoys what he's talking about, that it like brings you in and you want to listen to him.
Real quick, I don't want to interrupt, but I just wanted to thank Allie J so much for that gifted sub to Iron Fox. I'm sure they'll super appreciate it. Thank you so much, Allie J. Yeah, we're just sitting here. If you're just joining us, we're sitting here talking to Mr. Don Hooson, who is a Death Guard extraordinaire. To put it in perspective, because I know Allie J probably doesn't know what we're talking about, there was over 1,000 people playing at a giant tournament in Las Vegas called LVO, and he placed 9th out of all of those people. So huge. Oh no, my lights are doing crazy stuff. Sorry, I gotta fix that.
I struggled placing last, so that's very impressive.
You struggled placing last, so you didn't place last?
I didn't. I thought I got last, and I was like, I'm proud of this, but sadly I didn't even get last. I got like second
That's
or
called
third
the wooden spoon award.
Yeah, it feels bad because I was like, dude, I totally did the worst, and there was somebody that did worse than me. I'm like, what? This is terrible. I can't even be well, at least if I'm the worst, I can be proud of that. No one.
To be fair to whoever that was, there's no that's we were playing a triple team tournament or a three-man three-man teams at a tournament. So when we are talking about that, it's more like he probably got that paired up against every worst possible person, because I know if I was in charge of that team, I would have definitely been rolling terribly. And they're like, oh, you've got this army, guess what, you're dealing with that, and you're dealing with that.
It definitely was not a slight to them, it was a slight to myself. I should have taken the worst spot.
The dumpster fire?
I was definitely the dumpster fire. I want the Chambrero.
Oh god, the Chambrero. All right,
yeah.
So real quick, so I used to run tournaments at my house with like a bunch of my friends, Don. And Cody, I don't know if I've told you this or not. So what we used to do is I found at the armory that I work at, there was this like trophy, this golfing trophy that looks just really dumb. It was just an awful looking trophy that like just was collecting dust. So I'm like, let me grab this thing. So first place at our tournaments used to get this trophy that had nothing to do with Warhammer on it. Like it was just
it's like a completely different sport.
Yeah, it was golf. It was just a dude
saying that Warhammer's a sport.
It was golfing. So, and then we would put, we put a little nameplate on there, like that they won, and whoever won that tournament got to hold on to that trophy until the next tournament, until somebody took it from them. And we had the same thing for last place, which was this completely ridiculously oversized sombrero that I bought. And if you got and we called it the Chambrero, and if you got the Chambrero, you had to wear it at the next tournament, like for the entire duration of the game. So like you're trying to get line of sight behind things, and you have this gigantic sombrero that's like knocking your models over and shit. So it was more cheeky fun. Like honestly, we'd make them wear it for like the first 10 minutes, and we're like, all right, dude, like it's way too cumbersome and stupid. So we get it. But.
No. This is my prize. I will wear it as long as I damn well please.
We're gonna bring that to our GT. So like last play, we're holding a GT in October this year at the end of October, and so yeah, we'll definitely bring in the Chambrero for last place for the GT. No, I'm just kidding. We're not gonna do that.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll take. I'm not partaking, but I will take last place so I can wear it, because It is mine.
We might do a Chambrero trophy. That might be something we could do.
That would be, yeah, that might be more socially acceptable. For
maybe
the
like,
masses.
and like one of those little mini Chambreros, or sombreros, like the little ones that you put that they're like, well, you guys can't see me, but they're like the size of your hand, and just put it on a trophy.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that'd be cool.
Vicious said the Chambrero sounds like a good time. Yeah, it was. Mike, there's a guy that comes on our stream every once in a while. Mike, he got the Chambrero quite often and refused to wear it. We're like, dude, come on. It's like, no, fuck you. I'm not wearing this stupid sombrero.
I like so a little unrelated. I don't mind being bad at things as long as I'm having fun, which sounds lame, but
no, not at all. That's Warhammer, dude.
But I did play basketball for a short period of time for like a Christian basketball league, and I was so bad that they had to give you an award, and the award I got was most Christ-like. I was so bad at basketball, they could not give me anything else. They're like, this guy's he's kind of like Christ, He turned the other cheek. He's letting everyone walk all over him in basketball.
You got most Christ-like in basketball?
Yes. You get a little star, and that was like my uniform had all the Christ-like stars across the chest, dude. It was awesome.
You were probably so proud of that too.
And yeah, I was like, dude, I memorized those Bible verses, but then like growing older, I'm like, wait a second. It's not because I was good at Bible verses, it's because I was bad at basketball.
Oh, that's too funny. Sorry not to get off topic on that one, but
yeah, sorry about that. The Chambrero. It's like sometimes you got to be, hyped about your failures,
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's the mindset.
Yeah, I know as far as like mindset and having fun and stuff like that. I remember back a couple editions ago, I used to be a lot more competitive than I am now, and I was really strict with some opponents sometimes because sometimes when you get up to the higher level stuff, you want to make sure that people are being like
honest
on top of things as possible, because like sportsmanship was definitely not a big thing until like Steven Box came out with a video of like my opponent's yellow card or something like that put a giant magnifying glass up to sportsman like behavior and what you should do and should not do. And since then, I feel like the hobby has gone in a tremendously great direction as far as people just being better people to each other. And I got to the point now where I'm like, I don't even care if I win or lose anymore. I just want to effectively, like I joke with my friends with like LVO. I'm going to LVO not for 40K, but just to meet new friends. That is literally what it's all about. Because you're stuck across the table and you're having fun with someone for 3 hours. So get to know them, make sure that you guys both have a good time. Because ultimately, one person's going to win the entire event. Everyone else is going to do whatever. But you're just there to have a good time with your opponent.
Right. Yeah,
and it's the best outlook to have.
For sure. I mean, and it definitely does suck when you're paired up against somebody that's like just trying to finagle the rules as much as possible so that they win, or you watch them move their pieces and you can tell that they're like measuring from the front of their base, but then when they end their move, it's to the back of their base, and it's like, dude, you know what you're doing. Like, we're adults playing with army men. This isn't that serious. it's fun. Don't get me wrong. And I do like to win. I don't think anybody likes losing. But at the end of the day, it's
I don't
like,
mind it.
No, but you don't like it.
That's what I'm saying. You don't like it. It's not like you're playing the game to go in to lose. But also at the end of the day too, to me, it's like, hey man, if you're willing to sacrifice your character for something like Warhammer, like, I just got nothing for you. Like I don't even know what's going on in your personal life that you need to be cheating in a game of Warhammer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's actually something we've touched on for how we're going to be running our GTs with cheating. Like how harsh we're going to be, because cheating is always feels bad for the person that's not cheating. And it's like, and for what it does is it skews the results. So and I'm sure when GW looks at their stats and they're seeing something, if somebody's cheating and they're winning, that's skewing those stats. So that's not fair on that respect. So that kind of affects the entire game. And then
it could also be nerfing the army if you do too well.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
No, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. It's like, not only are you being a not nice guy, but you're also ruining that army.
Not only are you being a real doucher, but
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm gonna like when we were doing ours. There's accidental cheating. I do it all the time because I was going back and forth between playing fucking like 5 different armies, and then I was being pulled in the direction of playing Age of Sigmar. So I'm like learning Age of Sigmar armies and their rules, and like I get back to playing, 40K after like 2 months of playing Age of Sigmar, and I'm like, I have no idea what's happening. What do I do with my hands? And I'm like for example,
double turn.
Say again.
I said, "Where's my double turn?"
Yeah, yeah, right.
Are we not rolling off?
That is
what's happening.
By the way, Cody, if do you know that Age of Sigmar? Do you understand what he means by double turn?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay.
You roll off and then you roll off the first turn and then end up being you roll off again. So if you win the second roll off and you win second the first time, then you go first the second round.
Yeah, two turns in a row,
back to back.
Yeah, it's wild.
I would say that if you get caught if you get caught using weighted dice and you try to flush them down the toilet, that is a no-go for the tournament. No weighted dice. Weighted dice is like the intention to cheat. Like you proved intention.
Oh yeah.
Misremembering rules is kind of like, I understand it because I can barely read at a 5th grade level. So it's like I get it. But like if you're using weighted dice, like you weren't in here to have a good time. You were here to be a terrible person.
I think that though, like the more tournaments you go to, you start to see that there are people, especially repeat offenders, who end up like legitimately and intentionally cheating, but only for a slight advantage. And I think that is where there's like a weird window where people like cheat intentionally, and I think that they have to somehow rationalize it as like it's like an acceptable amount almost or something, because you'll find that I've actually seen people be corrected on like rules of their or some sort of rule from their army that they were playing incorrectly in their game, and they act like innocent about how like they didn't realize that, and then they do the exact same thing in the next game, and then they get a yellow card for it, and it's like So to what extent are you doing that on purpose? Now, I don't think most of us don't think that you're using like loaded dice, but because that's like the ultimate form of cheating. You're literally just like taking it to the highest extent.
Yeah.
But this one rule, like you're saying this weapon has 2 AP and it only has 1. And that's a huge break point. Or like this weapon is 2 damage instead of 1. Or it's D6 plus 3 or D6 instead of D6 plus 1, or like for a number of shots or something like that. Like little things like that, but you do them across a 7-round tournament, and you shoot that weapon across 3 units that have it. You shoot it like 3 times per turn, 15 times, and now you've shot that seven rounds worth. Like the cheating like compounds across the whole tournament, and then so I feel like actually a better question for you, Dom. Yeah. Would you rather play against somebody who is a rules lawyer or a nice guy but is like a cheater?
Well, definitely a rules player. I want everything to be as fair as possible. And I mean, there's stuff I get wrong every once in a while that I'm more than happy to talk out. If someone is willing to go, this is where it is, let me show you here, I'd be like, oh, yeah, cool. But I feel like that I still have a level of trust between me and that person. But if someone is actively cheating, even if they're a super nice guy, because ironically, those are normally the ones that get away with it, are the ones that seem super nice, so you don't even second guess what they do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they're doing stuff like, oh, I get 3 shots instead of 2 shots on this gun, things like that the entire time, or just any of that kind of stuff. I much rather win honestly than have to always be on top of my opponent, like, hey, move that back, hey, move that back, hey, you only have this many shots, that kind of stuff. I much rather have someone that's just anal about their rules.
It does make for less fun gameplay, because I've played numerous games against guys that like what you're talking about, Cody. Like the people that are like, they'll there is no personality there. It's literally just playing this game, and if you accidentally do something, they're questioning everything that you do.
Yeah.
Like the zero personality part is what gets me, because that, like, I feel like that's just such a freaking energy drain. They're like energy vampires.
Yeah, I actually, yeah, I agree. I would actually rather play a cheater than a rules lawyer, to be honest. When I say rules lawyer, I don't mean somebody who just holds you accountable to the rules. I specifically mean the person who's like over your shoulder, who questions every single one of your rules, who double checks every single measurement of yours. Like if you're just moving like your 5-inch movement like Death Shroud, then you move him like 5, and maybe one of the 6 models in your unit, or 7 models because they're led by a character. One of the 7 models, actually Death Shrouds are what, 4 inches?
4. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you move them 4, and one of them moves like you moved like one of them like 4 1/4, and he's like over you, like measuring every single thing. Or like you have like 10 boys get out of a truck, and one of the 10 boys is like slightly outside of 3 inches and tells you can't place the model there. Like across 3 hours of play where they're like over your shoulder, that just sucks the fun out of the game. And I, like you kind of said, I mean, I don't enjoy losing. I hope nobody enjoys losing, but I obviously love to win, but also I don't love to win at the expense of not having fun in the game itself. And that's the reason that I play the game. And those people take the fun out of the game, because the game is already random.
Yeah.
The game is random by definition with dice rolls. Like how many times I've played enough tournament games, and even in last year, I played enough tournament games where I was like handily winning a game. Like I thought I was going to table him by round 3, and then I just had like a string of terrible rolls. I will never forget this one game where I was playing my Death Guard list at Crucible, which is where I got my golden ticket at. It's a big tournament in Orlando, and it was like round 3, right? I actually lost a game that round, that tournament, and then like went like 7 straight after losing to John Lennon in round 1. I lost to John Lennon. I was like, shit, I can't get a gold ticket now. I'm out of this tournament. I ended up winning it because they're like the top 4 were like Art of War players, so who already had golden tickets. So I played a guy, I think in like round 3 or 4, he was playing Botan, and he had a whole bunch of bikes, and I went first with a bunch of brigands and predators. I picked up like 800 points on my first turn. Like I don't even know how to describe. Like I almost felt bad actually, and he turned around, and in Overwatch, in my charge phase, in Overwatch, his land fortress used a stratagem, so it has sustain 2 on me because I had 2 judgment tokens on Morty, a full health Morty. He hit me with the heavy magna rail, wounded me 3 times with it. Hit me 3 times because it sustained, wounded me all 3, but 2 of them were dev. And he just straight up did 20 mortals to me before I even made a save, and I failed the save.
Oh.
He picked up Morty in an Overwatch, and I was like, yeah, am I going to somehow lose this game now? Because I just lost Morty out of the middle of the board after I picked up 800 points of his army?
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
I mean, like there are definitely fun suckers in the world there. By and large, and we're talking about cheaters and fun suckers. Most of the people that you go to play against in tournaments are not there to give you bad time,
No.
or not there to
sure.
They're there to have fun with you.
Mhm.
But with that additional information you gave me, as far as like people that just are over your shoulder the whole time, I tend to very much so verbalize everything I do with my opponent, and I'll tell them like, all right, from here to here, how far do I need to go, and get that confirmation from them.
Yep.
Things like that, and just be like,
Put the
all right,
onus on them instead.
here,
Yeah.
you tell me where I can put this guy. There he goes. Like I tend to work around that to try to make it as non-confrontational as possible. Like we're agreeing on the state of things. And I mean, it probably also benefits me in the fact that I don't play a melee type army, so I don't have to be like super hard on my measurements as far as like, all right, I need a 7-inch charge. It's like, oh, I have a 36-inch gun. You're probably in range, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
But yeah, just like, all right, you tell me what I need. You tell me what the charge distance is. Good. Like that kind of stuff. And there's ways to get around that. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I just want to go roll dice with people and have a good time. But yeah, it's never fun when you're dealing with the people that just want to suck all the enjoyment out of the game.
Yeah, either that or like when I used to play, because I don't drink anymore, but I I would get a little like, especially at LVO, I tried to maintain that balance of like, I was like, hey, let me buy my opponent a drink, and then like if that person was a drinker, he'd get through it, and then I'd get like, let me buy you a drink, and then by the 3 hour mark, we're both fucking hammered. I'm like, dude, I still gotta play.
3 hours is a long time.
I still gotta play 2 more games. Oh my god, like. And we're both making mistakes because we're both just having a good time, just hammered.
Definitely.
But did you did you get to experience Vegas at all, or did you just play and kind of go back up, or did you gamble, or did you have any fun out there?
So I'm not a super huge fan of Vegas for Vegas.
Okay.
But like every time that we go up there now, we just rent out a B&B with like several friends. Because I feel like that's so much nicer than staying at a hotel where you go to your room, there's 2 beds and a TV, have fun, like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But yeah, whereas you have a B&B, it's like a whole house with like you have places to even play more games if you want to play Magic, whatever you want to do as far as having fun. We also had a couple of the girlfriends / wives that came up, and they would cook for us, things like that, and it's like it's so nice having that around. And like we go out and have like team dinners at like Brazilian steakhouses, things like that, where it's just like, all right, we're just gonna go out and have fun. If you want to go gamble, you can, but like I don't enjoy gambling that much. I'm not like my brain gets into it where I'm like I could, but I'm probably going to lose more than I make here, and I don't get the thrill out of it. Like I'd much rather go lose money on playing toy soldiers than lose money on looking at cards pop up.
Yeah. No, I get you.
Totally understand.
I feel like craps has to be the game for Warhammer players, though.
Right? That's what I was.
It's a literal dice game.
It is.
It's a 2d6 game on top of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you especially, Don, know this with all the multi-meltas you run.
Oh, definitely. I think the only thing the only gambling thing I even kind of like is roulette, because you can just play it forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a way to blow through time. But even then, it's like if no one else wants to play it, I'm not going to go sit down at a table and play roulette.
Mm-hmm. You're just like a black or red guy or something.
Yeah, you just set up so that the odds are if you lose, you lose, but you're going to win like 90% of your hands and make your money back with like a chip or two.
Yeah, you just keep putting $1 on black and $1 on red, and you're like, let's go. Yep. Like
I do have something to add here. Don said that he likes to go to Brazilian steakhouses. I can already confirm he's a good dude. Anybody that likes to go to there you go. See.
Well, I mean, dude,
steakhouses.
Freaking
that is where it is.
I kind of like grew up in Vegas, so like the Vegas, the experience I've already, like I know it very well, but I will say it is the food capital of the world, man. Like you go out there and you are getting some of the best food you can get anywhere.
And cool magic shows.
True. Very true.
Yeah, I like magic. Sleight of hand's pretty cool.
But getting back to Warhammer really quick. In these high level games, what are some small details to take advantage of? And I know I kind of already asked this. I'm more asking gameplay wise, not Death Guard specific. Small details to take advantage of and what to look out for, and feel free to kind of expound on specific armies if you can.
Yeah, so there's definitely quite a few things that you'd want to look at as far as the armies that you're playing against. There's always like what's the common meta builds, things like that. Like for this event, I was expecting Star Shadow to be all over the place. I was expecting Codex Space Marines to be everywhere, and then I was expecting Solar Spearhead to be everywhere, because those are armies that are not terribly hard to put together, or they're armies that people just have, like Space Marines.
Yeah, especially Solar Spearhead. Like that's a super, honestly, like cost real life money effective army that they can put together in like a couple days.
Definitely. So like you don't try to put your list together to be able to handle those things. But the most basic thing you can try to do is just try to find any way at all that you can, because you have most control over primary in the game, secondary cards or whatever. But just try to find some way to get your ability to score primary up and your ability to take primary away from your opponent up as well, so that they don't score as many points and you're just relying on the cards, or if you're taking fixed whatever's. But most of the time fixed is hard to get 40 on. But yeah, like the ironically, like my first game I played against Tau, and I was just like, oh, well, I'm sorry, Tau player, I'm going to outshoot you. And I proceeded to outshoot him. Second game I played against Vanguard Nids, which Vanguard Nids are an awesome army. I love the way that Vanguard Nids play. I feel like they are a hard counter to Codex Space Marines due to their ability to like loan up 6 and stuff like that. So they're great. But unfortunately, when you have an army that likes to run over your opponent, like the Death Guard list that I had, it makes it so that they can't really rely on those tricks too well. But yeah, it's just your ability to basically read your opponent as well. Because some people you get to the table with, and like, you know, with the Shadowboxing World Leaders guy or whatever, you're gonna find that you can tell how they're going to play based on just your initial reaction to talking with them. Right. So whether they're going to be a hyper-aggressive player or whether they're going to be very conservative. Like, I'm convinced every elf player does not like getting punched in the face.
New subscription received.
So they will do everything
Dismissing crafting received. Thank you for adding your class 2 access.
Like, rely on that. And I mean, like, I've even gotten to the point where it's Eldar, where before the Codex, I had it solved because I originally was just like, I'm going to try to hide from them, but they always had like fire prisons that could always get an angle and you just always got hit. I'm like, I know they have an issue with orcs. Let's try just running at them. And then I took my whole army and just ran it at them. And every time I did that, you just completely crush Eldar because they had no way to handle threat overload or pressure. But they were happy to play 5 rounds. So you can to produce that.
Real quick, I'm going to come back to that, but I just wanted to give it a shout out to AO Bing Bong. Thank you so much for the sub, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
We're just John looks like he's pondering.
I am pondering.
if you're just showing up right now, we're sitting here chit-chatting with Don Hooson. He plays Death Guard very well, placed very high in the overall placings for LVO, which is basically like the Super Bowl for 40K. Which
I like the plug right there.
Right? Yeah, because it's Super Bowl right now.
That's good. You'll love to see. Oh, it's a blowout. Oh my god, I have not looked at the score. Ooh, this is not.
Yeah,
I see 3 interceptions.
My ticket's not doing so well, but it's a good game nonetheless.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and are there any things that regardless of the army, like for like things to look out for, as in like people placing models, in terrain like an inch and a little bit off of the wall, so you can't charge them while they're in, like little things like that. Is there any tips and tricks you've got in that aspect? I mean, and you can apply it to Death Guard if you want to.
Yeah, I know. As far as like my style of lists, the 1 inch off wall trick doesn't matter for me because I don't run a whole lot of things that can walk through walls. So that can't be charged thing doesn't really happen to me too much. But most of the time, as long as you're able to create fire lanes, hold on to 2 primary objectives, like whether or not they're hiding behind a wall, if they're scoring less primary than you, they have to interact with you. So they have to come out and play with you.
Right.
And your ability to counteract that is normally what Death Guard excels at, whether it's having minus 1 weapon skill, blitz skill in there, or whatever else to deal with it. As far as other armies go, I pretty much just played Death Guard. I played Demons a little bit with the new Demons attachment. Like I love my play company.
Oh, it's fun.
Legion.
I bad touched Kyle with that.
Like,
yeah,
it's very unconventional the way that it does damage, but it is hysterical how much damage it can do.
It is not. It's not a good time. It's not even fun to play against. That is an army that's like, it's like, dude, all right, well, I guess I'm just gonna not be able to score, and I'm gonna keep taking mortal wounds for some reason because I'm on the board. That's actually
Battleshock is a meme until it isn't.
Yeah. The amount of times I've heard Battleshock doesn't matter, except for that one time I lost the game because of Battleshock. And it's like, well, let me tell you about 7 Battleshocks to turn on each unit. Have fun. Like,
yeah.
like-
Add a modifier too. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
not if you got Mortarion, but
oh, definitely.
or somebody that
And
ignores
then,
it.
yeah, then you add things like the enhancer for like Canker Blight, where every time they fail a Battleshock within 6 inches of that guy, they lose a model in the unit. Like, I was playing against a World Leaders guy, and he lost 4 Exalted 8-bound and the Juggernaut Lord from just getting shocked over and over and over again. He's like, this is some bullshit. I'm like, it's the best 15-point enhancement in the game.
It's
like,
so
hands down.
ridiculous.
Yeah. I really love it with what's it, Maggot Maws enhancement as well. They literally synergize together.
Yeah. Yeah. My biggest issue with Maggot Maws is I want to run all 4 enhancements, and that's the one that I have a hard time getting over the other 3. Because Canker Blight is just amazing.
Yeah.
The
Plus one to
loan
AP
up
is pretty
great,
nice.
and the extra AP is great. Because loan up 18 keeps your army fairly safe on turn 1, so you're taking 1 less turn of damage most of the time. But yeah, it's
Canker Blight.
Great.
Can you go over that?
so Canker Blight, it's an enhancement that can go on any character in that list. Like 2 of the enhancements are just monstrous characters, but it can go on any of the characters in the list. I tend to put on Sloppity Bile Piper because he also just does battle shocks on everything that's not a monster vehicle within 6 each 5 phase. And then what it does is every time that an opponent fails a battle shock test within 6 inches of him, you can elect to use either the actual Demon's Thing or Canker Blight. And if you use Canker Blight, it doesn't also do the mortal wounds, but instead your opponent selects 1 model in the unit and they are just slain as long as they are not a monster of you.
Yeah,
And for 15 points, it's so strong.
yeah. Not to mention, I mean, you can't not take it on something called Sloppity Bile Piper. I mean, that's just a badass.
Definitely.
That's just a badass name.
I was playing like a very obviously I was playing that list. I really love the regular. I forget what their actual official name is now, but the regular old school Herald that just is the extra -1 to battle shocks. Yeah, Poxbringer. Sorry, triple. I was running like triple Poxbringer with now my version is triple Skull Cannon. It's you just go as fast as you can down the field, and that stratagem for +5 to movement is so good, especially on the Bile Piper. But it's so good. You fall back with them, like they can't even tag you really because you can fall back 10 inches.
You can't fall back.
11.
Unfortunately, it's only a normal move for that.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I've only played the detachment I think 2 or 3 times now, but was it really that? I feel like I almost.
But yeah, it's still really, really strong. Like I had my Epidemus unit, like zip across the board and just destroy whatever touch because you had like Rodigus point or something. And it goes like +1 damage, and then you spit on with your flies and roll all wounds. You get the extra AP from the other guy's enhancement, and you're just like, this guy's just destroying things. And the Epidemus unit has a 4-bit save, so it's just annoying to get rid of. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to play that list.
Oh, so
just a quick comment. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Ao Bing Bong said Sloppity who? Sloppity Bile Piper, so he has a what's that instrument called? Oh my
bagpipe.
It's a
God.
bagpipe.
Yeah, thank you. It's a bagpipe, but it's a bile bagpipe. Okay, leave me alone. All right. I'm gonna need you to get all the way off my back on this one because that was really hard to think of. Yeah, so yeah, it's a gallbladder bagpipe for those wondering. Also said that Allie J does not worship the Emperor. She thinks that he's a phony, which is good. We like that.
That is true.
And hello, Aramond. Thank you for joining.
Wow, you're really good at this, John. And
You're welcome.
hello, Aramond. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I banned that guy one time. So, not intentionally.
And it's funny that you're talking about allies really quick, because my next question was going to be what your thoughts were on worthy allies, which is funny because you were saying earlier how you're like, nope, fuck, I'm not taking allies, I'm not doing it. So like I almost wasn't even going to ask, but like I guess for anybody that's listening that is thinking about running allies for Death Guard, what would be your some of your top picks for that?
And like, it's not that allies are bad.
Oh no, I wasn't implying that. Yeah.
Yeah, like all the allies are actually fairly good. I have ran a Warhound Titan as an ally before. If you're trying to win an event, do not bring that. It is way overcosted for what it does. But yeah, the like most of the Chaos Knight stuff is really good. Most of the demons units are also
Did you
very
run
good.
the
They just have
Plasma
a
Blast
battle
Gun?
line attack. Which?
Did you run the Plasma Blast Gun?
Yeah, so I had a Plasma Blast Gun and a Vulcan Mega Bolter.
Oh, a Vulcan Mega Bolter.
Yeah, it
You
was because
spell
I
out.
didn't want to get touched. Like, if it gets touched, you can't shoot the plasma at what you're engaged with. It doesn't have a rule that you can fall back and still shoot, so I'm like, I want to be able to still be able to handle being hugged. But yeah, that thing was a lot of fun to play. Like, I played it 1 RTT, I went 1 and 2, because it does die. The ability to kill big things is not negligible in 10th edition. But like at the RTT that I went to yesterday, I went 3-0 with. I switched up the list a little bit from the LVO list and brought in 10 Plague Bearers. And ever since Plague Bearers came down to 110 points, I was like, they're great. I tossed them on my list and I was like, oh, these are great, especially because I hate Nurglings. So Plague Bearers are a great battle line units to rank. And Plague Bearers also have sticky. They get +1 to charge. They deep strike. They're 20 wounds, 20 OC between them for 110 points that don't hit for nothing, especially if you're able to get them in contagion range with a -1 toughness, -1 save. Most of the time, they're still able to kind of like punch things decently well. But yeah, I love those little Plague Bearers. They will happily steal an opponent's objective, or just make it so that their stuff can't do what they want to do. But yeah, like Beast and Nurgle are amazing. Like if you have a battle line already, find 65 points. A Beast Nurgle will always make you happy. Like it just will.
They are adorable puppies.
Amazing. Indeed, they're such puppies that they don't even realize that they kill things.
They're like
exactly.
They're like manatees. Or like manatees accidentally kill people because they're just trying to play with them and they drown them. It's like the same thing. Yeah, that's
what happened.
Okay, so
That is not a thing. I live in Florida. There's manatees in my canals.
Dude,
you're about to get drowned.
You're gonna make me.
Yourself.
You're gonna make.
You're gonna get attacked by a sea cow later.
You're more like, what really happened? They were eaten by alligators, like fucked up by an alligator, and there just happened to be a manatee nearby, so it got wrongly attributed.
So I might be misspeaking, but somebody told me when I was a kid not to mess with manatees because they're not trying to hurt you, but they will accidentally drown you. So I don't know if that's a thing or not, but I'm just saying.
These are not known to kill people. You're welcome. I'm Jamie. This is the Joe Rogan.
I just looked it up too, and that's why I was like, I obviously have been misinformed.
This was urban legends.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's equivalent to like, hey, turn the light off in the car. I'm gonna get pulled over because it's illegal.
Don't say Bloody Mary 3 times in the mirror, or else you might get Bloody Mary.
Don't eat the watermelon seeds.
Yeah, they'll grow inside of you. This poor guy, a product of misinformation.
Man, I'm trying to find something that there's not. There's nothing worse than just reciting something that you thought for a long time, and it's just not true at all.
I've heard the Emperor of Mankind is a great dad.
he loves his children.
He's a decent dad to like 4 of them.
Yeah. He doesn't sacrifice.
He's a little lackluster to the other 80%, but
even to the one he was good at or good to, like he was great to Magnus, but didn't tell him that he was talking to Zinch the entire time. Yeah, he was great to Magnus.
Dude, he was so strict. He's the rebellious teen daughter. Magnus?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The more I've read into the lore, the more it seems like the Emperor kind of like didn't like how well he like how in tune he was.
Dude, when
with
they
his
met each
powers.
other for the first time, they embraced as if they had known each other
They
forever.
totally hit it off. That's because when he was a kid, he was talking to the Emperor in his dreams and stuff.
Mhm.
They totally hit it off. But eventually, him and the Thousand Sons became so like psychically powerful that, and psychic, or just psychers in general were extremely looked down on.
Yeah.
And at that time, so like the Emperor kind of put like a I don't even know how do you want to do it, like a silence order on them. Like they needed to stop. He kept telling them, and then
Yeah,
he was
hold on.
over policing them.
There,
Hold on.
There is stories behind this, so it's not just. So it was the other. There was what's his name, Mortarion, one of them,
Mhm.
and
I'm talking about before the tribunal.
yeah, but those are the ones that were pushing it though. It was him and the Space Wolf guy. I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah, the Space
Yeah,
Wolves.
yeah, Lehman Russ. Him and
He's
Lehman.
weird. It's not the warp. It's the weird.
Yeah, yeah. But they were the ones that were pushing for him to be disbanded and like to get rid of the Thousand Sons. And the Emperor was like, okay, everybody's complaining enough. Guys, chill out, is how I took that. It wasn't because he was mean to Magnus. It was just because everybody was like, dude, they're turning into tentacle people. You need to stop this.
No, I think he had a falling out with Magnus. I think they were bros, and then they were
Not anymore.
further apart bros.
Well, coming from
Not
somebody that hasn't read one of the books.
Okay, I have read the Wikipedia page, which is.
I was talking about
true.
John. I was talking about me, not you, dude.
Oh,
I will say that I'm an aficionado on this subject because I've listened to Wes Hammer's story on this like 8 times. So
I have blood first. That makes me the victor.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
but yeah. So is there I don't remember if did I'm assuming that we cut you off. We're very ADD here if you haven't been able to tell. But did you put everything out that you wanted to say about allies, Don? Or was there any
Pretty
other
much,
ones that,
yeah,
that you
like,
wanted to hit
they're-
up?
It's very hard to go wrong with allies outside of the Warhound Titan. Like everything that you can ally in has a purpose. Whether it's Nurglings, Plague Bearers, Great Unclean Ones, even if you really want to emphasize the -1 toughness thing, because it will
Even
stack
Soul
with-
Grinders.
Yeah, Soul Grinders. They are much more durable than a Defiler. They just do less damage in a Death Guard army because the amount of buffs and deals you can do with Defilers make their damage ridiculous. Outside
What I
that,
found
yeah.
was decent for them is that like I feel like they actually synergize really well with a bunch of PB. If you run like triple PBC, then like 1, 2, or I don't think you can fit 3 in 500 points.
No, not with a new
Yeah.
battle line thing. They're too expensive.
Exactly, yeah. So you can run like 2 and 2 Nurgling squads, I think is what you can do. And if you really want them, and then you can like kind of double down on that like strength 7, 2 damage, indirect, lethal, blast.
Yeah, you can definitely do that indirect thing. I don't find indirect to be as reliable as I want it to be to really
Yeah.
focus on that. But definitely them as a very annoying to remove piece because they're still like 14 wounds, toughness 11, with a 3 armor, 4 invincible save. They're not hard to get rid of, and if they get into combat, they will probably kill what they hit.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like they are still pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely one of those things that all the Death Guard allies are pretty good, minus the Titan, the actual Titan.
Yeah, even from Chaos Knights, I feel like you have like options with, I mean, the Brigands and Carnivores. I think are both totally legitimate options. I could even see possibilities for like the what's it called, I think it's the Stalker, the one that has like the isolation bonus to its damage.
Yeah,
There's
Yeah.
even an argument for that. The bigger knights are actually pretty solid. Several of them, the spoiler specifically stands out, and then I think there might even be certain circumstances where like an abominant or a rampager could be okay.
yeah. And like even
yeah,
things
I
like the
completely agree with you.
Porphyrion, if you really want to just delete tanks,
Mhm.
that thing will get such a benefit out of the Death Guard debuffs
Oh,
that
yeah.
it will just look at things and destroy them.
Mhm.
Who was this?
It's 800 points. The Porphyrion. It's one of the Acastus Knights.
Okay.
So you have the guy with the double conversion beams and the Porphyrian's guy with the double magna lasers. But yeah, those guys are huge. They're not characters though, so keep in mind that those really, really big knights cannot shoot in action or action while they're engaged. But yeah, the most of those knights are really, really useful for allies if you have space to put them in.
I've got to get up my knowledge. I've been wanting to actually. I want to buy everything, man. There's just not enough money ever.
That's a very fair statement. There's just not enough money for all this plastic.
I've been wanting to get into freaking Chaos Knights for so long, but I'm just like, oh god, I can't justify spending it right now.
Go on Amazon, you look at the price, you're like, maybe I could put it off a little bit.
I mean, and monetarily speaking, it is probably a cheaper army, overall, because I can't tell you how much I've spent on Drukhari. Or Jesus, on my AdMech.
How much was that Void Raven, bro?
Yeah.
Don't tell us. Don't say it. Don't say the number.
Don't say it out loud.
The forbidden number.
A wife ire.
Yeah, actually, and I bought it and I didn't say anything, and it came in while I was gone, and she was like,
What is this?
well, looks like you got another Warhammer model, huh? And I was like, oh shit. Well, you weren't supposed to see that. That was put on the old credit card.
Yeah. 1/4 of mortgage.
She's like, did you need more models? Look at all the models. She doesn't know anything about Warhammer at all. And she's like, how can you not, how are you still buying models? And I'm like, because I don't have this one. And she's like, yeah, but you have so much other stuff.
It is funny how this is like one of the hobbies, especially in my life, where people in my family are like, hey, we want to get you this as a gift. I'm like, nah, it's good. Don't even worry about it. It's not that expensive. Like this, I don't need it. I can buy it on my own because I don't want to see the price tag. Like I have a whole room that just has a shit ton of models in there, and if they saw that, they'd be like, "Oh my god, this is like a business loan. Stop, you have a problem."
Yeah. I definitely have done that before, where I had literally like 2 rooms full of just plastic crack that.
Plastic
eventually
crack.
Because it was just like, I need more, I want all the things. And of course, back when I just got out of college and I started making actual money, I was like, oh, all the money goes into that. And I'm like, oh, this is nice. And then bills started happening and things like that, and I'm like, all right, well, I don't need to spend that much more. And then I got married, and I'm like, oh, I guess I can't have 2 rooms just full of plastic crack. Let's and I took everything out, and I'm like, friends, take my stuff. And I'm like, there is so much crap here.
Yeah, and my
I
wife,
don't need all this. I haven't even looked at it in 5 years.
I'll have the same pair of shoes for like 2 years, and my wife's like, dude, you need to buy new shoes. And I'm like, yeah, these are still
I'm the same way.
These are okay. They're still shoeing, you know what I mean? They're still doing their job. And I'm like,
kind of have grip.
Yeah, but then it comes to Warhammer, and I'm like, well, that paycheck is gone. Fuck it. We're just
gotta do it.
But is there any lists that you're looking to try out? Like some prototype lists per se, or anything of that nature?
I know I was really happy with the list I just tried yesterday. Because I'm worried about the possibility of Eldar. I'm not worried about Eldar as far as crushing me or anything like that, but I'm worried about how annoying Eldar are going to be with the battle focus mechanic. So I decided to yank all my drones, and to also yank the plague bus, and I put in the 3 plague crawlers and the plague bearers to try to see if I could handle all the ability for them to just come out, shoot you, and disappear behind a wall, because Eldar hate being shot indirect. And
yes.
I mean, Plague Patrols are still decent units on their own right. They are 180 points. They're not anywhere near as damaging as the Defilers. That's one of the things that I always tell you about Defilers. It's for 10 more points, I get a Defiler over a Plague Crawler, which is better weapons, more wounds, generally speaking, more impact on the game. But the Plague Crawler's ability to just touch things behind walls is great.
Yeah, I played a couple of years ago. I played in a little RTT that I had 3 Plague Burst crawlers, and I played against a Drukari army, and it just that guy he did not have fun. It's and
He's not having a
unfortunately
good time.
he was playing a really off metal list for the time. It was he brought Hellions, which are just
yeah.
I want to like Hellions, but I just can't justify bringing them because they just die too quick and they don't do enough. But they are
Those
cool.
are the Green Goblins, right?
Yeah, they're the Green
Overboard.
Goblins.
Yeah.
They used to be really
They do
cool
look
back in
cool.
the day. Don, I'm sure you remember when Drukari had an entire, basically like 4 pages of HQ choices, and one of them was Baron Sathanix, and
Yep.
he used to
2
act.
plus full rerollable annoyance.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
really good, and you used to be able to snatch characters out of units. So you used to be able to like get in a melee with a unit, and if you didn't die, you could fall back and still charge, but you could bring a character unit with you. Like they would snag him and bring it.
Abduct them.
Yeah, it was
Yep.
super cool, man. It was a lot of fun.
That Don mentioned it. I wish they. It seems like they're really trimming the fat on character models, especially my only experience is the Tau Codex, and it's like they got rid of like oh my gosh,
They got rid of
what's his
Space
name?
Pope.
Yeah, they got rid of Space Pope.
and
Well, I mean,
Anchi.
he's dead in the lore, so I can agree with that one. But like Anchi, our only like cool, badass melee guy that at one point fought in the Drukari fight pits. Why get
Yeah.
rid of him? Like he's so cool. That and then the tank commander, which I thought the
Oh, yeah,
tank
Long
commander
Strike.
was super cool. Yeah, Long Strike. Like, why get rid of these guys? And you mentioned with Death Guard, in the books we have these characters. Why are only the Marine like? You have Gaunt's ghosts. Why can't we have other book characters? Like, why are we only giving attention to Gaunt's ghosts? Which is a good book series, to be fair. I've read the first book.
Yeah.
It is good, but come on, give love to other book characters. Like, don't get rid of characters. I feel like that's
it's Xenos in general, dude. But
yeah, it just feels so bad. Because you mentioned it, and then I thought about Tau and like what Tau's experience. I'm like, dude, the characters kind of make the game. Like to me, having these like really lore friendly characters just in the army is super cool.
Yeah.
and I know we're approaching 2 hours here, and I know you've got stuff to do, and I know you got you got your little nerdlings running around, so I don't want to keep you too long, but
Life.
yeah, you got life going on.
Definitely.
What are your if you had to put it up to 5, what are your top 5 units in Death Guard?
So top 5. Let's see. I really love how Mortarian's at right now. He's actually probably the most points efficient unit that we have in our codex. Let's just flat out. His durability, his ability to affect the game state by simply existing is super strong. So yeah, he's definitely number 1. You don't have to like him, you don't have to play him, but he's exceptionally good at affecting the game. The Predator Structors are ridiculously cheap for the amount of damage that it can inflict on the games, like on the board. Whether and like I joke with people all the time. I don't run las cannons, or like the high strength gun I have on my list is the Defiler cannon. Everything else is strength 9 or less, and I routinely table tank company type stuff because there's so many ways to get like lethal hits or the minus toughness. You're normally like winning on 5s, so like even with the heavy bolters, you'll just shred through people with your all the debuffs and buffs that you can give your stuff. Then there's Typhus. He's an obvious one. They don't know how to point him to where he should be. Like I think he's on 140 point model that is currently 80. So he's really useful there. The Terminator Sorcerers are also ridiculously good for 70 points. They're really annoying to deal with. They can occasionally just come down and blow up like a whole unit by themselves. And then like even if someone gets into combat with them, you can pop -1 damage. If someone has 3 damage attacks, you can pop -2 damage on them. Like they're really, really useful. And then as far as probably the 5th most useful unit, it probably is Death Shroud, because they have the ability to keep your characters that you want to use often safe with their -1 damage, and then people just don't want to get into combat with them either because they hit on 2s, strength 8, AP 2, 2 damage, lethal, or a sweep attack of 601 lethal. It's a very useful unit, but like I was saying earlier, I feel like the internal balance in the Death Guard Index is super strong. It's really hard to go wrong with units on the list. I love Spawn, I love Cultists, I love like everything in there is usable. Even if it's less usable than others, most of it is very usable. You can win RTTs with anything in that book, even the Malignant Fire. But yeah, just go have fun with the list that you want to play and get used to how you want to play it.
Right. Guys, Cody, you got anything, man? Is there any did we touch on everything or did I miss something?
Yeah, I actually do want to ask Don about his thoughts about. I kind of feel like it was like my secret weapon, climbing, like I guess the proverbial ladder to get to Worlds with Death Guard. I'm super fond of walking demon princes. I think that they are so point efficient. Even if you don't run units that are affected by their ability, they are just so points efficient that I was running even the final list that I had 2 of them in. They are just so good.
And
Kind of like the way you run your blow drones and your malefic blight haulers or whatever for like 90 points each. Kind of the same way as that, except these are more expensive. These are like 160 a piece.
Yes. And yeah, they're decent. I wish that they were strength 10 like the World Years Demon Princes are, because that would help them out tremendously. The strength 8 on their weapon can be a little rough. It definitely requires you to pick your targets appropriately. Or
Yeah.
I wish that they still had like the plague weapon rule on their swords, so they had lethal or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can able to see how they'd be very useful. They're T11, 10 wounds. They move 7, I think, 7 or 8.
Yeah, they move 7.
Yeah, but for me, the biggest reason why I don't run them is because I already have such a skew into. I give up lots of bring it down, and they give up bring it down and assassinate. So I don't want to give my opponent a reason to take fixed with reliability behind it. Like I don't mind, like my LVO list gave up full bring it down and full assassinate, but I had characters that I could literally not play with and not care. That would just take points away from my opponent.
Yeah, I played that every single game pretty much, like in my current lists. And I find that despite giving up like my current comp list is like actually an admech list, and I think I give up like 28 on Bring It Down and 28 on Assassinate, and yet every single game I played, only one person one time ran fixed against me and failed to actually score any points.
Nice.
But other than that, like no, people still play tactical anyway. It's because people are like, okay, let me put this in perspective. I played this list, and although I did lose to John Lennon, even John Lennon doesn't play Assassinate Bring It Down. He still plays tactical against me.
Yeah, and I mean,
They
some
don't
people
do it
just have that
anyway.
built into their mindset of I'm used to playing tactical. Here's my units that are built to take tactical. Because otherwise, like some people have like Mandrakes are a great example of a unit that for Drakari that they're in there specifically to go push buttons and exist and engage all fronts behind enemy lines, that kind of stuff like that. When you give someone a fixed option like kill, and they have those units at that point become not useless, but they lose potency in the list by quite a bit. They exist to stand on an objective, and that's it. Occasionally they kill something, but it changes around how people play, and some people don't like shifting off of that. And a lot of people with tactical are also used to just always having the option to get extra CP in the list. But yeah, I take fixed fairly often on people that offer me at least 35 points on things. Like I'm more than happy to just take points where I don't have to have a blight hauler or plagueburst crawler run over and go to an action for a turn. If they do, it's whatever. But if so my opponent gives me the option to not have to care about that, I won't care about it. But yeah, it just depends on what you're playing against. And like I said, some people they're stuck on their mindset of I'm always taking tactical no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, that was, I think. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna comment. Unfortunately, Not that I'm ignoring what you're saying at all. Poor. Oh no. Now.
Now it happened.
Yeah, and now the things are going to be screwed up. Cody got hit. His computer just crashed on him, so unfortunately, we're going to see some weird stuff on the Discord here right now. But
Oh, we get to see my globe. I have a globe in my room.
But yeah, I mean, and yeah, Cody can you text him that he could probably join back in if he wants to?
Yeah, I already
I'm
did.
assuming that he's got another question if he's wanting to join back in instead of just being like, well, tell him I said thank you.
I have a couple too. Mine are probably a lot less.
Well, but real quick before you
Off-purpose.
do that, one of my questions that I actually forgot to ask was going to be what your thoughts were on fixed versus tactical in Pariah, but I feel like you kind of answered that. But if you wanted to, like as an overall,
Expound.
yeah.
And yeah, it always depends on, like I said, I never try to get a feel for my opponent, their army, things like that. Because I mean, like, demons are one of those examples of an army that routinely will give up full assassinate, full bring it down. You'd never want to take fixed against because they have the ability to uppy downy and just keep their stuff away from you scoring points. But like, there's other armies where they want to come out, like world leaders and whatnot, where they will just give you points for free, so you just take it.
Got you. Yeah, John, go ahead, man.
Okay. Mine is not as intuitive. I kind of want to ask you about the state of the game. As far as like comparing it, I have very limited experience. I played it then in 9th and then starting into 10th. To me, it does seem more of it seems like you can kind of play what army you like and still be able to be pretty proficient and do well. What do you think about the balance compared to previous editions? And is it the most balanced the game's ever been, or is it, getting to that point? Because they are updating it a lot more frequently than I know they have been in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely some times that the balance has been ridiculous. Right now is actually fairly good. Like, there's nothing in the game right now. Well, keep in mind, I'm not thinking about like New Eldar, New Guard, things like that.
Yeah.
That are a problem outside of, I think Bridgehead is the only one that is really a feels bad army to play against. It's Igard Bridgehead. But that's also without the knowledge of what that would be like with the new codex. That being said, like 9th edition had a tremendously terrible run of like, well, here's Drukhari that came out and they're broken, followed by Admech that came out and they're broken, followed by Sisters that came out and they're broken. And I hated that type of state of play. It never felt good to go to an event and be like, oh, you're playing the broken thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're good or not, but you're up at this level right now, but that's probably just because the army's carrying you. And I hated feeling that way about my opponent.
Right.
Whereas right now, I can literally walk up and be like, oh, you're playing like, Drukhari, or oh, you're playing Sisters. I might lose this game. Because if you are just focused on scoring points and denying points, that's how you win games now. Like, you can win a game technically without killing any of your opponent's models. I don't know how that would actually happen outside of like playing as a Warhound Titan, just running around them the whole game. But like, your ability to just score points is how you win games.
Yeah.
Killing models just makes it harder for your opponent to score points effectively.
Right. Cody, you're back with us, dude. We are good. We're good to go. I was thinking you were gonna be good because like it just paused, and I was like, oh, it's doing the old Zoom calls from COVID when like you're you're in the background, like not actually doing it, but you've got that picture. You got the picture of you up.
Yeah.
But yeah, John just. I'm sure you heard it. Actually, I don't need to explain it. Is there anything that you wanted to go over really quick?
No, I think like I think I'm pretty good. Yeah. I think Death Guard are just really strong right now. I think that I can't understand really why their win rate across like tournaments is so low. unless people are just like consistently running just like really slow armies. That's the only
It's
thing I
because
can
you have
think
people
of.
like me.
Dragging the whole win rate down. Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel
I'm
like Death
bringing the win
Guard.
rate down.
I really feel like Death Guard should be like a 53 to 55% win rate faction. Instead, they're what, like 50 on the dot right now, I think.
Yeah, they've been pretty constant with the like right in the middle of the
Mhm.
pack, but that's taking into account the people that don't play so well, and then
Yeah.
there's always the outliers like Aiden Smalley with like Discussing Resilient podcast. He's been doing really well with them over in England and whatnot. But I think it's also because there's a whole lot of Death Guard players that are really stuck in the old ways of playing Death Guard, which is my army should be durable. I'm gonna walk out into the middle and hope I don't die. Oh, I died because I'm not that durable anymore. I have 1 extra pip of toughness on my infantry, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's just the game is not built around durability outside of like Canoptic Court or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's built around your ability to remove your opponent's ability to remove your models. As funny as that sounds. And
Yeah, this is like a joke almost for like GW when they released Tenta says like less lethal. The whole like that's one of their goals. Simpler but not simple. The game's going to become less lethal. I actually feel like each book that comes out makes the game more and more lethal. Like
definitely.
me and my buddy had the ultimate example of this. If you look at the old Howling Banshees and the new Howling Banshees, this is just straight up them making the game more lethal. They took the Howling Banshees, which was like 3 or 4 attacks at like 4-1-1 on the profile, hits on 3s. Now it's 2 attacks only, but it hits on 2s with a squad that gets reroll 1s. And then it's 4-2-2. So now it's killing Space Marine bodies, and it has anti-infantry 3-up. And they're cheaper.
Yeah.
One quick thing. I think Kyle has an impression of Howling Banshees, if you'd like to.
Oh, are we doing the ooh again? No.
Yeah, we're doing it again.
Ooh.
You see, yeah, it's like, what does their attack sound like? Like they're howling banshees. Like, what are they howling? How are they howling?
No. You had to be there for it, dude. That was a one-time show.
I was there, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah.
Howling banshees.
That's funny. But well, man, I don't want to hold you up anymore. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on here and chatting with us, man. And I know for a fact I'm definitely like you are more than welcome. We'd love to have you on whenever you want to talk. If there's like a new list you want to try out. I mean, we do Tabletop Simulator. We put that on stream or not, it doesn't matter. So, love to have you anytime you want to come on, man. This was an enlightening session. There's some things that you said that, like, honestly, when I build my list, I'm like, oh yeah, that needs to be in there. And then I'm like, some of the things that you said, I'm like, why do I feel like I have to include that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
But yeah, for anybody here that's watching, we are going to be holding our GT. Got to do a plug-in really quick. We're going to be holding our GT in October in North Charleston, South Carolina. It'll be our first one that we're doing. We're super excited about it. So if you're in that area, we'd love to have you. I believe I put it in the chat. It's at wickedcitygaming.com. If you haven't looked at it, please do so. And yeah, we're going to throw a raid out here to, I think he's painting some Space Marines right now. His name is Rottweiler 1616. So
can I throw in one thing real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Don, have you seen Kung Pao?
Enter the Fist?
Yeah,
I
Enter
have.
the Fist. Oh, okay, so you're gonna get this. Thank you. So if you ever want to play against me in a game of TTS, Kyle is the one that taught me how to play, and then he can say, we taught him wrong as a joke. I am Wimplo. So I died first. That makes me the victor. I've scored less points. So if you ever want to have a good time, just hit us up, man. We'll play a game. I can show you how Death Guard's not played.
Fair.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I certainly appreciate everybody. Don, have a good one, brother. I'm sure I will see you on the old Facebook group chat. We'll get together on there and talk about maybe the next time.
You too. I mean, heck, that Death Guard Codex is not too far off, and I'm sure there's gonna be lots of crying people because that's just what every Death Guard release has been: crying and then realizing that it's actually not that bad.
Mhm.
Yeah, for
It's good
sure.
to have a positive mindset. For
Yeah,
these things.
it's definitely gonna happen. But all right, guys. And Don, hang on a second. Don't hang up as we get off. I'm gonna raid right now. So but all right, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Appreciate it.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
Let me make sure we're not off yet. I just want to make sure that raid goes through. Did it raid, John?